What is up? This is Sean Dustin. I'm from the Nowhere to Go But Up podcast. This is the live stream that I do weekly. It hasn't found a permanent spot yet. I haven't locked that down, but it will be next week. I'm going to try to do it on Wednesdays at probably 4. And if not, then it'll be Thursday. And if not Thursday, it'll be Friday. So either one of those will be happening. If you want to support the show, go to Patreon. You can find all the links to that in the description. And anywhere else that you want to find this show, follow the Linktree link in the description of this post. And that's all the places where you can find the show. That's pretty much all I have. This is a replay of episode 50. And this is with Ravi Jayagopal, and he is a content creator and basically he's really good with podcast strategies and tech and all that. Creating content, building an audience. This is what this episode is pretty much about. So, yeah, I mean, we're going to talk a little bit about his story, but the meat of this really goes pretty much into content creation and building an audience. So I hope you enjoy the show and your weekend. Be safe out there. This is a holiday weekend. Use your best judgment as far as anything that goes outdoors. So yeah, let's get to this episode here. Our guest. And so, yeah, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell my listeners or why you're here.
Yeah, so I saw a post from you saying, if you have overcome some challenges and you have a story to tell, I'd love to hear from you. My audience would love to hear from you. So I thought I have it's not the greatest of stories. It's nothing as inspiring as your background. So I can't honestly say, I came from nothing or no dramatic stuff like that. But I have had my fair share of challenges in my life. And as an immigrant coming to the U.S., in 2000, during the dotcom boom and then the dotcom bust and the 9/11 and a whole bunch of other stuff, right? And having to keep a job that I didn't particularly care about because I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I had to go through several years of sticking to a job. It's not like I had to just have a job. I had to stick to the same job for about 5 years, which was incredibly hard, post 9/11. And it was a lot of things had to go my way, and I didn't give up. And so that's the kind of story I wanted to share with your audience today.
I've got something to show you that is a perfect example of how to not give up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to onit.com and Joe Rogan for putting me onto that shirt. Not personally, but I listened to his podcast, and so I went over to Onnit and I found this shirt, and fits me perfect because I've got an inner bitch, and he is a motherfucker.
Yeah, I would put it conquer your inner mofo. No offense to female dogs, but I prefer to call him a bad guy, right? So
yeah.
sitting inside saying what you can and cannot do kind of stuff. But more than that, it was the circumstances that, growing up for me, I can't say I was poor or anything. We were, lower middle class, and I never had to go without food. I really didn't have the kind of struggles that a lot of people would have in terms of coming from really poor backgrounds or broken family. I didn't have any of that. My parents raised me with a lot of love and attention, and I was a single child. And they didn't. Even though we didn't have much, I had everything I needed. From having a bicycle when I wanted it, and all that kind of stuff. Having the basic shoes and this and that, and all the basic fancy stuff. Nothing too fancy, but all the basic essentials. So for me, it was more circumstantial in more than the inner thing, because somehow because my father was he's no more, rest in peace. He was a film director and writer, so he worked a lot from home. So it got ingrained into me from childhood that I wanted to be like my father, right? Most boys would like to be like their father, especially if they're a good role model. And he was perfect. He didn't have any bad habits. He was there. He was loyal to my mom. He was always home. He was there home when I came home from school, and he was ready to do whatever, right? If you wanted to go for a movie on a school day, he was ready for it. And he was ready to go with me wherever I wanted to go, and get me anything I needed, books. Back then, obviously no internet and anything else, but I was into comic books. So every time we used to go to this this book fair, I could get all the books, because my father and mother, they started a school for poor children, and they provided a lot of education for a lot of people, and a lot of free education for people from who couldn't afford education. So they were doing a lot of social work. So the schools, they were always getting books and everything else, right? Resources. So when we went to the book fair once a year, it was Christmas for me, right? They said, don't worry about it. Get anything you want. And also keep in mind, it's not just for you, it's for the school. So I got to pick the library for the school. So I would go crazy and get all these books and comic books and fiction and nonfiction and history and everything. I could just buy whatever I wanted, because it came from the school budget. So it would all go to the school library. And then I got to go in there and check out as many books as I wanted, read it, put it back, and then all the other kids benefited from that too. So I was blessed in so many ways. And the craziest thing was most of my challenges started after I became an adult. So coming to the US, because I was trying to, I got hooked on the internet in about 95 or so, 1995. Created my first Hotmail address back then, and it was amazing. So I had a Kinko's like setup back in the day. Desktop publishing. Right out of college, I wanted to be an entrepreneur and do business. And feel free to jump in and stop me anytime if I'm going off track. And so I wanted to, start a business right off of college. And so I started this desktop publishing unit where I bought one computer, one color printer, which was a huge luxury back in India at the time. People didn't have computers, they didn't have internet, they didn't have color printers, definitely, and photocopying. So I put all of those Kinko's like set up in an office, and I thought, I could set everything up, and I can go do other stuff, and this will earn me a living. But I learned pretty fast that it's a really, really tough business, because when you have a small setup, right, the computer breaks down, boom, you're profit for a week goes out the window. Your printer goes down, or your person doing the photocopies doesn't come in, and you have to be there. I had to open the shop. I had to close the shop, and I could not do any of the stuff I wanted to, and I was struggling for a few years there. And then the internet started picking up. A lot of people were starting to use the internet. So I said, okay, I should start an internet cafe. So I got a loan, and I opened a shop right next door, internet cafe, where I put up 10 computers, nice carpeting, air conditioning, blah blah blah, and fast internet speed, which was ISDN. I don't know if you're familiar with that. So it was like the lowest end was the 14 4K routers, where you dialed in and it's like
Yeah.
So that was like the 14.4 baud modem. That was the lowest end, and the ISDN was supposed to be super fast, and it was like 56 kbps. Right, today I get 150 mbps download. Right, that's like 100,000 times faster. So for that was the high speed, and then that was shared between the computers, and that's when I got into the internet, and I started. One of my friends came and said, "Hey, I see you've been dabbling with HTML and stuff. Can you create a website for me for my? I want to impress my girlfriend for our anniversary." So back then there was this famous thing called Java applets that ran in browsers. So
I remember Java.
the dancing babies, and it was the earliest form of what we have as a GIFs and memes today, right? So there was a dancing baby. So I created a website which put together a couple of those Java applets, and it would crash every 3 times you loaded it. The browser would crash. Netscape Navigator. So that's how I got into programming, and then I figured out that I could not sell a lot from India. I had a website about baby names. My wife was pregnant at the time, and I was looking online, and I couldn't find any good websites for baby names, Indian baby names. So I said, I'm going to start my own. That's how I started babynamesindia.com, because somebody had told me. I used to follow a couple of the gurus in the US, and one of the things I'd learned online is that you had to have your keywords in the domain. So I couldn't get Indian baby names, so I went with Baby Names India, and it became the #1 site for baby names for probably the next 7-8 years. And I was not able to monetize it initially because there was no AdSense in 90s, 97, 98. And so I started, okay, I'm going to sell a book. So I went to a book publisher, one of the most famous Indian book authors, baby name book authors, and I asked them about whether I could sell their book, and I never heard back. So I said, you know what, I'm just going to buy it from the local store at a discount bookstore, and I'm going to ship it worldwide. And then it was one challenge after the other. I could not get a merchant account, because merchant accounts in the US, they considered me a high risk living in India. So I was paying a $10 transaction fee per transaction. So if I sold a book for $2, my cost would be $12. What I would have to pay them $10 for that transaction, which means I had to charge enough for the book to cover the transaction fee and the shipping fees, which was like 5 times the cost of the book.
Wow.
So the $2 book in Indian rupees at the time I had to charge about $20, $25, $26 to get it to somebody in the US or UK. And that's how. And then I said, "This is not going to work out. I need to be where the action is." And I started figuring out how to get to the US. And luckily, the dotcom boom was going on, and they were hiring people, and I was good at programming, so that's how I got here.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah, I did a lot of work when that dot-com boom was happening. I was in the construction industry. I mean, I'm still in it, but that was like right when I got in as an apprentice, and I was doing a lot of work down in the South Bay, in Bay Area, San Francisco, down in Silicon Valley, and doing stuff for Hewlett Packard there when they were starting to. They had a bunch of stuff going on, and then they downsized, and so Apple started buying up all of their campuses because that's when iTunes was really starting to kick in and become a big thing. And so like the iTunes campus took over the Hewlett Packard, and there was just so much stuff going on back then. And a lot of startups, tons of them. Everybody had a .com, and then pretty soon it just it all dried up. I felt like that was going to happen a little bit again with the app situation, but the difference between the apps and the .coms was everybody has a computer or a phone in their hand now. So I mean, it's not the same as the .coms, because the .coms depended on everybody having a computer, which not everybody could afford.
Right.
So there was definitely a what's that called? An advantage now with the apps.
Right. It's crazy how earlier in the late 90s, early 2000s, the hardest thing was technology, and the easiest thing was attention, right? Because you sent out an email, you used to get like 90%, 95% open rates. You had super high click-through rates because there were not too many people doing this stuff, especially not in the make money online world. That was always saturated. But if you go down, get down to the niches, right, mom and pop niches, if you knew what to do and how to talk and how to engage people without coming across as a sleazy marketer, your engagement was through the roof. But the hardest thing was technology, right? How do I create a video? Where do I put it? There's no YouTube, right? So now you're talking to your host, web host, and they're like, you outshot your bandwidth usage by 70%. So your bill is going to be like $120 or $150 compared to like the usual $5. So everything was a challenge. There was Amazon S3. I don't think there was AWS back then. So there was no easy place to put it, no Dropbox, no. So earlier, everything was hard. Everything you had to figure out. That's why so fewer people were doing it, because you had to get a webcam and you had to learn a tool like Camtasia Studio. That's when I learned it, around 2001, because I needed to create videos for my how-to videos and documentation videos for my software products. But I was always ahead of the curve because I was trying to do more than what was necessary. And technology was hard, but now everything is easy, right? You can take a simple clip, fire up your phone, boom, you're on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, everywhere in 2 minutes, high speed bandwidth. Everything is easy, but attention is hard to come by. So the whole thing is it's always going to be hard for entrepreneurs who are trying to do stuff. So you just have to stick to it, and nothing comes easy.
Yeah, I'm finding that with but I mean, I already knew that coming in with a podcast that, it's not, you don't come in and think that you're going to kill it, unless you already have a following. Let's say you've already got like 50,000 Instagram followers, and now you've got somewhere to put it out to, and you're going to get, just off of that alone, 50,000, you're going to get a lot of hits on whatever you post out there. But when you're trying to start and build it organically, it is not fast by any means.
Oh yeah, absolutely. See, all of the biggest podcasts I heard about, right? Tim Ferriss, when he first came out with this podcast, I heard about it from his newsletter because I was already subscribed to it. I already knew who Tim Ferriss was. He was already a rock star author, 4-hour work week, 4-hour body, 4-hour chef, blah, 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 right? He was. So people who already had established themselves, don't have to be a mega celebrity, but even somebody with a decent amount of following offline, when they start a podcast, it's so much easier because all you have to do is let your followers know wherever your followers are. It could be on Twitter and Facebook or Instagram, wherever, or email list, which is what I recommend highly a lot of people, because it's a lot easier to build an email list than trying to build a following on Twitter, for example. So building an email is absolutely critical. And like you said, if you don't have an existing audience you can bring with you, then creating an audience organically using a podcast is a very long game.
Mm-hmm.
Because what happens is you say, okay, I'm starting a podcast. Boom. Okay, now I'm live. okay, now what do I do? How do I get more listeners? Now you're like, somebody says, oh, you should post on Facebook groups. Guess what? If you go and post in a random Facebook group or a podcast, you're going to get kicked out for spamming,
Mhm.
right? So then you're like, okay, let me just go spam a bunch of podcasting groups. So that is like promoting your podcast to other podcasters is like a dentist going to a dental conference and handing out cards about his dental service, right? It makes no sense. you don't you don't put. So that's what a lot of people doing. Echo chambers. They go to these low quality podcasting groups where everybody's just spamming the heck out of each other with podcasts. We all do that. I've done that too. I still do that, hoping to pick up a listener or two here or there. But those are all very super low impact activities and low efficiency activities because you're just in an echo chamber trying to get that one listener. That's not going to help. You need to know how to get 100 listeners, because at the end of the day, remember, not everybody who listens to your podcast is going to be interested in continuing to listen, right? They're not going to subscribe. So it's almost like the door-to-door salesman technique. How do you get the maximum people to give you a shot, and then some of those will accept your offer, right? Except without spamming. So you need to figure out what are the high impact activities where you can get your podcast in front of maximum number of users. So if you get your show in front of 1,000 listeners, then 1,000 people who see your link or your opportunity to click, out of that, 20% may actually click play, right? And so now you're down to 200 people out of the 1,000. Then within the 200 people, how many listen all the way through and how many actually like your show? Maybe out of the 200, maybe 30%, right? Now you're down to 60 people. And then out of those, how many people will go on to subscribe? Made up, be down to 10 people. So that's how you have to do the math, and the numbers have to be, so you have to try to get in front of the bigger audience, and then hopefully they'll follow you because you're providing value, you're making their day better, you're teaching them or entertaining them or educating them, whatever it is. And so simply posting in podcasting groups is not going to help. And the only way to do that is to build your own audience. And podcasters, that's where we all struggle, because okay, now I have a podcast, so I can't build an audience using just a podcast. I need another platform to bring audience to this one. So now I have to figure out how to start a Facebook group, right? Which means now I'm like, oh, okay, so how do I get people to my Facebook group? Or, okay, just go post on Twitter, but I have 4 followers, right? And then how do I get more followers? So you see how it goes from, I want more listeners, to now you're figuring out how to get Twitter followers. Now you're figuring out how to grow your Facebook group. Now you're figuring out how to grow your email list. So it goes all around. And podcasting is usually best, unless you have an existing audience, it is best served as a secondary content marketing platform to build deeper relationships with your existing audience, and not just to use it as a primary tool to go organically find you a new audience.
Yeah,
on your own, unless you're going on other people's podcasts. I actually wrote a Kindle book about this called the Podcast Promotion Report, and where I talk about all the I call it the Brilliant 5 Blah 95 technique. So most of the stuff you read about any topic online is the Blah 95, right? Post on social, post on Twitter, post on LinkedIn. You start an Instagram account, post about, take audiograms, post it here, post it. Those are all the Blah 95. Anybody can do that, but I also talk about, I always go into the Brilliant 5, which is the top 5% of anything you can do. So in my book, I wrote about that, and it's all about how to build a list and how to, I call it side door strategy. So you don't directly promote your podcast. Instead, even if you're advertising, it's a very tough thing to advertise a podcast, because people don't want to leave. They're scrolling through Facebook or whatever the platform is because they're bored. The last thing they want to do is click on a link and go and listen to a podcast, right? You have to make them aware. So the best way to do that is through other channels, which is take what is the best thing about your podcast and maybe create a freebie out of it, like a bonus report or a Kindle book or something else, right? Or a video course, a little mini course or one video that shows them how to do something that's related to your podcast, and get them to your website, get their email in exchange for your free bonus. And now they're on your list, and now you make your podcast a part of the content marketing strategy to build a deeper relationship with them, and hopefully, they'll go on to subscribe and become a customer and so on. But just leading with the podcast is a very tough business model. Just why you'll see a lot of podcasters, pod fading. They say the average podcast lasts 7 episodes or something like that, which is why Apple Podcast has I think close to 1 million podcasts, but only 300,000 or so are active. The podcasting is a tough is a tough thing unless you're really passionate about your niche. You're passionate about spreading your message. You have that you can't talk. You have to be so passionate about something that you just can't shut up about it, right? like me right now. So you have to have the passion, you have to have the commitment, you have to be good at something, because nobody wants to listen to 2 guys in their mom's basement, drinking beer and shooting the shit about whatever they feel like that day, right? It gets old really fast unless you're super entertaining and your personality is the show, not the content. So podcasting is tough, and you have to be very strategic in promoting it and creating it, of course.
Now, would you suggest, because you're in those groups, how you've got these guys that are trying to hit you up from India, that they'll get you,
Oh, yeah.
you know what I mean? It's flooded with those kind of guys. And since I'm a moderator of that group, podcasts, I see them coming in, and every time I see somebody from either Bangladesh or India,
Yeah.
it's I almost automatically know when I'm saying approve, because I don't not, if they follow the directions and they answer the questions, then I'm going to approve you. You're following the rules, even though I know what you're going in there to do.
Right. Yeah. If I actually have an episode about a podcast at subscribe.me.fm about why Facebook, you should build your community on your own website and not Facebook. So I'm not the biggest proponent of Facebook groups, unless it's very heavily curated. Again, same thing, bringing your outside audience. If you see some of the biggest podcast movement and all this, the big groups, they had an existing audience. They are bringing their people onto thing. It's people are not finding about podcast movement because of the Facebook group. It's the opposite. People know about podcast movement and all these big events and seminars and celebrities outside of podcasts, outside of Facebook groups, and then I want to be a part of this community, and then they join the Facebook group. So if your first goal is to get people to join your Facebook group and then get them to listen to this, that's too many hurdles, right? And it's a really tough thing to start like that. So when I still have a Facebook group that I occasionally post. I'm not too active. I have my forum on my website, and if I see somebody who has 30, who's part of more than 30 groups, I automatically decline. A lot of these people who are trying to promote their services, not just podcasting, website creation and this and that, and you can see they're part of 350 or 500 groups. And right away, nobody can reasonably be part of 300 groups and add value there. So yeah, you have to weed through a lot of the spam and clutter when you have a group.
Yeah, I have one. I have a Facebook group. There's only not a lot of people, maybe 160 people in there. I haven't really done a whole lot with it. I don't have a website, which is something that I probably need. Because
Absolutely.
Anybody that I'm sending anywhere, I just I have merchandise now, so I went to TeePublic and did that, and I'm driving people to their website, and I'm getting a little bit of the commission on that. Yeah, but I mean, it's really something that I should be doing, bringing everybody to my site, my traffic, and pushing it out from there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a huge proponent of owning your platform, and so the very first thing I would recommend that you do, right after you hang up off this call, unless you have other things. I'm just telling you what an urgent thing that is, that you have to have your own website. And don't just create it for your podcast. Don't just brand it for your podcast, because podcast is one of the things, right? Unless your podcast is the only branding strategy right now, I would recommend having a centralized hub. Tomorrow you might start a YouTube channel, and you, like you said, merchandise and this and that. You want a centralized hub send people to, put a sign up form there, offer them a freebie, start collecting emails, put the Facebook and Google pixels on there, so you can start tracking analytics, and you can start building a Facebook audience from now, so that in 3 months or 6 months, if you want to do a Facebook ad, you'll have an built up audience of people who have visited your website, and you can market to them and show them ads, show them videos, and you have to, podcasting as exciting as it is, at the end of the day, you have to pay to play, whether it is getting some decent equipment and starting. That's the easiest part, but the hardest part for anything, whatever you start today, whether it's YouTube channel or Instagram, it's all about, anything can be started easily. It's always, okay, what next? How do I get people here? How do I get people to follow me or subscribe to this channel or watch my videos or listen to my podcast? Audience building is the hardest part for 99% of entrepreneurs, because they are usually good at what they do, whether it's building products or services or plugins or writing ebooks or creating courses. Assuming they're good at that part, the next part is always, okay, how am I going to let people know about this? That is always where a lot of people, find it very challenging.
So what would you suggest? Like, I have a YouTube channel, I have all of these, everything that you should have social media wise, but I'm good at what I do, but I'm not good at the other parts. You know what I mean? I'm not good at social media. I'm not good at at collecting emails. Like, I've not collected one email in the whole year that I've been interacting with people, and I've talked to tons of people and emailed them back and forth, never collecting anything, never doing any of that. So, I mean, what would you suggest? Would you suggest that I put some money into having something? I don't know how to build a website. I mean, I know it's easy enough to go to Square,
Right.
and have a strategy. I mean, what would you suggest for somebody? I mean, because I obviously, from the people that do listen to my podcast, and I don't ask my family or friends, I don't ask any of them their opinion, because they're not going to give me the truth. I talk to everybody that comes to my show or has listened to any of my episodes. A lot of them have said that, hey, you got something, you have something here. Your voice is easy to listen to. Your message is pretty good. I mean, you come from, wherever you came from, you have a lot of knowledge and a lot of stuff to offer people. So, I mean, as far as like experience and, life experience and the such. So what would you suggest, and how would somebody who, is in my position would go forward to try and acquire that?
Yeah. So when you are not sure and you have so many different directions to go in and you're not sure, the first thing I would recommend is find a mentor, find a coach, a business coach like me, or not me, or anybody in your circle, somebody who has been there, done that. Because it's not the general advice I would give you would be spray and pray, right? Because I would give you like 20 steps if you weren't my coaching client, if I'm just talking to you. If you said, what is the general advice for most people who are in that position, it would be, start a website. First, get your domain name, start a website, or use WordPress or Square or whatever it is. I would say WordPress. WordPress is the most powerful thing. It's like having an app store, right? Because if you not having WordPress is like the flip phones of the past era, right? Whatever the software comes with the phone is what you can use. You can't add anything. You can't change anything. No configuration, nothing. But WordPress is like when Apple introduced the App Store. So now you have a phone. You download apps that you need to use. So just like there's an app for that, there's a plugin for that in WordPress. So whether you want to do audio or video or whatever you can imagine, there's a plugin for that. And it's, you can customize your website just the way you want it. So I would say start with the WordPress site, and then again, you'll need to, if you were my business, if you were working with me as my client, I would say, okay, where are you right now? What are your assets? Where are your audiences? Where are you getting the most traction? And then I would tell you to start building an audience. And so that would depend on an interactive, session where you tell me, okay, you said you're not good at social media. So that means, you may not have an existing audience. That's probably what you mean by you're not good at it, right? Because social media is only as good as our audience, right? Because if you don't have an audience, then you feel like you're not good at it. Is that correct?
Yeah, low numbers. Instagram, I'm scratching 450 followers. I've had the hardest time on that one. Facebook, I have a lot of. It's very easy to get people to follow you on Facebook, to friend requests and stuff like that. Twitter, I don't understand Twitter at all. It seems to me like more of a political deal. So I don't know how to, like, every one of these apps or these social media platforms has a way to work it. It's just a matter of...
Right. Especially, I'm a big fan of Twitter for learning and keeping tabs, especially when you're, when you want to be an expert in your field and you want to be at the cutting edge of stuff and you want to know what's going on. Twitter, all these platforms for that matter, even TikTok, right? If you keep, so I'm a marketer at heart, and I'm a developer at heart, coder, who has eventually become good at marketing, and I'm a student of marketing, and I'm always trying to learn. And so any new platform comes, I usually try to check it out. Not all of them, but TikTok, I checked it out when it was getting big last year. And what I found is even TikTok, it curates your feed based on what you want it to be, right? If you keep liking silly 12-year-olds lip syncing videos all the time, it will serve up more silly 12-year-olds lip syncing videos, right? And those kind of videos. If you start liking business videos, you will start getting business, how to make money on. And if you start liking arts and crafts, you'll start get jewelry making, glass making, all this. So it always, you can curate your feed, and you train the platform, whatever it is, by following people whose information you want. Same thing on Twitter. If you endlessly follow political people, you're going to get a lot of political noise, right? And for me, I follow politics and I follow sports. I'm a huge NBA fan. I'm a LeBron James stan, right? And so I follow Lakers and all the beat writers from different teams, different like GMs and this one, and the biggest reporters and breaking news. So and then I follow some politics, and I'm following a lot of WordPress people and marketers. So you can curate your feed however you want. And Twitter, that's what, if you end up following people who are negative, this goes across all platforms, right? If you find somebody, constantly tweeting or posting about politics, unfollow them. The best thing you can do is unfriend, unfollow, unsubscribe. And you only follow, friend, and subscribe to the kind of content you want. And you can transform your feed, whatever platform it is, exactly. You can tailor it to exactly that's something you look forward to every day. So you start by searching for hashtags, even on TikTok, right? If you go on and so do online marketing or jewelry making or glass make, whatever your passion is, you can transform the silly platform called TikTok into an amazing gold mine of content. And 15 seconds, people are putting out it's like Twitter for a video. People are putting out the best content in 15 seconds. You just can't go wrong with that. You want magic tricks? Endless magic tricks. You want stand-up? Endless stand-up. You can curate. Obviously, you'll come across some funny. I have liked so many dog videos. I'm a dog guy. When I go to TikTok, 70% are dog videos, and I can't stop. I can't stop. I love dogs. I have a dog, and so sometimes I'll love something, but I won't like it. I won't hit the heart because I don't want TikTok to just show me dog videos 100% of the time. So you have to, if you're following certain hashtags, whether on Twitter or Facebook, same thing on Facebook too. You make friends with the people who think like you, who have strong opinions. Maybe they don't have to exactly be like you and think the exact same things, but if you want differing opinions, you follow different people, you friend them, you go to Facebook groups, you lurk, you follow. So all these platforms are absolutely 100% power is in your hands to curate your feed to the way. So block, unfollow, unsubscribe, unfriend anybody who makes you anxious or makes you pissed off or makes you upset or whatever it is, whether it's politics or sports. If I'm such a huge LeBron James fan that if I'm following somebody who's just hating him, for example, right? It's one thing to say LeBron is not good, blah blah blah, but if somebody's constantly hating on him, for example, I'll unfollow, right? I don't want to hear that. I don't need you to tell me that my opinion does not matter. And so you curate your feed, whether it's religion, sports, politics, how-to skills, and regular whatever day-to-day skills. You can curate your feed beautifully, and that's the key for yourself as a creator too. You got to cultivate your fans. 1,000 True Fans concept based by Kevin Kelly. In fact, I created a course about this last year. I called it 1001truefans.com, where I talk about how to build an audience from scratch when you have nobody, when your only friends on Facebook are your family and friends from high school, right? And your colleagues and coworkers. Or what happens if you have 20 followers on Twitter? How do you create a following, and how do you build an audience who can follow you and become your followers? And that is about content repurposing, putting out the exact content without worrying about am I constantly pissing off people by putting out my content. You have to be passionate about it. People will follow you, unfollow you, whether if they don't care. If they love what you do, they'll follow you. And you got to say intelligent stuff. You got to say smart stuff. You got to be entertaining. You have to have good personality. You have to put valuable content out there that people can constantly learn instead of nonstop memes and gifs and hey, post the 7th photo from your camera roll, or that kind of stuff. Junk can only take you so far. I see a lot of people on my Facebook feed posting jokes all the time. Yeah, I remember that some people for their jokes, but I have no idea what they do for a living. I would never know. I would not know whether I can work with them someday because I have no idea what their skills are. Because all I know is that they post jokes all the time, and there are some people who only post politics, whether it's they're Republican or Democrat or whatever it is. They're only posting politics, and they're already always bashing the people on the other aisle. Unfollow, boom. If you're constantly posting memes, unfollow. I mean, unfriend you, but I'll unfollow because I don't want to. I have very limited time when I go on social. I'm trying to catch up with friends and family, but at the same time, I also want to make the best use of it and provide maximum value in minimum time. So every platform has its pros and cons. You have to figure out how to get the best out of it as a consumer, and then you create content that you can post to multiple platforms, and you repurpose, and you have to promote it. And one of my favorite ways to build an audience is writing a Kindle book. Because if you post something online and say, hey, I have a 7-day video course about blah, how many people are going to, care about that, right? Nobody wants to watch 7 hours of video or 4 hours of video to learn something, right? And then if you say I have a podcast, podcasts are still not that mainstream where somebody will click on something and listen to your entire episode, right? You can post snippets. That's fine. You get them excited. You can, if you want to promote podcasts, best is to do it via an email list or go on other people's podcasts. So there's a whole other sea of way to build your audience. But fastest way I've found is to write a Kindle book, because people love downloading reports and Kindle books. And you write something short, sweet. 20 pages is a Kindle book. 10 pages is a Kindle book. Doesn't have to be 200 pages. show somebody how to do one thing really, really well and make it epic. And a beautiful, well-written, super impactful 10-page ebook will kill a 200-page ebook with fluff in there any day, right? And then you give it to people, you approach people, say, and then you form joint ventures, you form relationships with Facebook group owners and say, hey, I have this thing, I want to give it out for free in exchange for a review. Are you interested? So you have to know how to promote it without coming across sleazy or spamming. And Kindle book is a fantastic way. If I have a Kindle book out there, right? If I just say, hey, download my free report, blah, on my website, you might be like, yeah, come on, another free report. I have 1,000 of these on my hard drive, right? But if you see that I'm giving you a Kindle book that has 15 5-star reviews and looks great and promises one thing and that you'll do really well, and you're like, wow. So you have to raise the perceived value of your report. That's the best way to do that, is to put it out there as a Kindle book, get some reviews, and then start offering it to people in exchange for a review, and then build a list. And then now they know what you do. Now you say, hey, by the way, I talk about this stuff on my podcast. Go to episode numbers 45 or 73 where I talked about this with this guest, and this is how we did it. So there's so many different ways, and you have to, the first, going back to what I would recommend you, is first you have to start a website, launch a website, and come up with a lead magnet, which is basically a freebie, and put a sign-up form there, start building a list, maybe write a Kindle book, or create or even if you don't want to write something, create one video which is like 10 minutes long, which is amazing, and use that as a lead magnet, or put out a special podcast episode. Again, a lot of people will think that, I talked about this with my guest for 1 hour, and then that's the public podcast, and there's more stuff to this. I talked to this guy for another hour to listen to that. You pay me or join my membership. People are not interested in that. They're already getting bombarded with content, right? Nobody wants to. And you probably already got the best stuff in there in your free podcast. Why would somebody pay for audio? So it has to be a very strategic thing where you talk to somebody about one specific thing and you use that as your lead magnet. So there has to be some curiosity, some suspense, some, oh, I wonder what is the number one thing you can do on TikTok to get more followers, or something like that, right? Or so you have to have a targeted interview, not just a 2-hour conversation split into two. First hour is free, second hour is behind a paywall. It's not going to work. It has to be very targeted, and it has to be closer to your niche. And so if I went and interviewed 20 people on how to do social media marketing or Kindle books, right? I'm big into Kindle books and digital marketing and delivering digital video and audio. And so if I did a video series of 10 different people, I can put it behind a paywall, because my whole life has been about this niche, about digital audio, video, podcast, Kindle books, blah, 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 how to deliver my business coaching, everything. So my whole, it's like, I hate to use that word, and I actually forgot that word. Like, everything comes together, right? Everything is pushing forward in the same direction. So you have to get that kind of momentum. And when you have that, you can create any kind of exclusive content. And that is what you put behind a paywall, not just anything and everything that you feel like, right? That's not valuable. So you always have to ask, if I listen to 1 hour with Ravi, I'm really going to pay $5 to Sean to listen to the next hour of Ravi rambling, right, on this podcast. So it probably answer would probably be no for some people. So you have to be very strategic about what is the lead magnet you create, and start building a list from tomorrow. Because it takes time to build a list, and if you don't do it now, right, just like somebody says, when was the best time to start a podcast? It was 20 years ago or 15 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Second best day to start a podcast is today. So the best, if you didn't do it for all these years, the best time to do it is right now, today, or the next free minute you get to start thinking about. So if you have a business coach, you can walk you through all these things. This is what I do for a living, and how to build an audience, how to monetize. And a lot of people will have an audience, but they may not know how to monetize it, right? Because podcasting, people will think that, oh, I have to build up my audience to 5,000 listeners, and then I will get invited to a company like Midroll or something where they will provide ads for me. Well, guess what? If you get to 5,000 downloads, which is really hard by itself, right? I'm sorry, my allergies are acting up, and my
you're good.
that's why I'm constantly messing with my nose. So if you get to 5,000 listeners and you manage to somehow get your first ad, land your first ad through a company like Midroll, and they give you a coupon code, and you say, hey, go to xyz.com and use coupon code Ravi, and you'll get 20% off. And let's say nobody goes there. Your sponsor is out for the next episode. So you slogged 3 years or 2 years to build up an audience to 5,000 listeners so you could get an ad, and your sponsor won't stay. So you have to create your own products and services. You can't depend on sponsorship. I always say, make money from your podcast. I make money because of your podcast, not just from your podcast. So use your content, your podcast as a content marketing tool, relationship building tool, and creating new doors where none existed before. And then you have to figure out how to, because all the other things, the merchandise, the charge keys, the Patreons, and all these things, it's fine. It'll get you to, so there are people, don't get me wrong, I'm not dismissing any of that. There are people who make a lot of money with those things. Some of them may even make a living with Patreon and other things. But we're talking about probable versus possible. Is it possible? Yes. To make a full-time living with sponsorship and Patreon, it's possible. But is it probable for most people? No, because that's not how podcasting works. And so instead of trying to build up your audience so you can lease it to somebody else to promote their products, and you keep getting a small commission if somebody goes on, why not build your own brand? Why not build your own products and services? You can start with affiliate marketing right now, not have to wait till 5,000 listeners or downloads or whatever the minimum is. You can start promoting affiliate products. So if you have a great headphone or a headset or a thing or something you're using, you start promoting it. Become an affiliate for the product. You look around your house or around your computers, look at the programs you're using. You can become an affiliate for those programs, and you can start promoting it right now. And another easy way to figure out how engaged you might have 1,000 downloads, but you don't know how engaged they are. And the best way to find out is to stop asking everybody to go leave you a rating and a review, and instead tell them to send you an email. And maybe you can offer them a free bonus right on your podcast. I do that all the time. Hey, I've written a new Kindle book. If you want to get a free copy in exchange for a review, if you are willing to leave me a review in 7 days, let me know. It's a new Kindle book. It has 10-star, 5-star reviews, blah, blah, blah. Promote it a little bit and say, you can have it for free. Just send me an email to Ravi, blah, blah, blah. Right? Now, you'll know how engaged is your audience. Will they get up to do something as simple as send you an email? Because if they won't send you an email, they're probably not going to buy from a coupon code you give them for something $50 or $100 or $200 or subscription, especially at times of like a pandemic like this going on. People are cutting down a subscription. So if you're promoting something that's a subscription-based product, Hulu or this or that or whatever it is, how likely is it that they may already have it or they don't care about it? So instead, put your personality behind it, promote products and services you use so you can promote it with passion and say, hey, this mic, this headset I'm using, it's amazing. And if you go here, you'll use this coupon code, you'll get this discount for free. Or send me an email and I have a new course, one video. It's not too long. It'll take you just 7 minutes to watch. And I show you exactly how to create a face mask or something like that, right? Something relevant, something urgent, something important. And I'll give it to you for free, no charge. Just you send me an email to Sean@seandustin.com, right? So you can do that and build a list. And that's how you start building an audience.
Well, that was a lot of information, a lot of good information too. And I'm running up on I got another one scheduled at 5, so we're gonna have to cut this one short because I'm pretty sure it could have went a lot longer. I'd love to pick your brain, and I definitely will be getting back in touch with you about some of those other options. So if you could actually just email me what your service is, and we can go from there. But what I would like you to do right now is just shoot out anywhere, your social media, your podcast, anything you want my listeners to be able to where they can find you.
Sure. My website is subscribeme.fm, and that's the name of my podcast too, subscribeme.fm. So you can, on my website at the top, you can see a beautiful playlist where you can listen to all the episodes right there, or just search for subscribeme.fm as one word in your favorite podcast app, Spotify, wherever it is, and you'll find my show. I talk about digital marketing, membership sites, online courses, creating, delivering, and monetizing digital content like podcasting and audio, video, PDFs, membership sites. And at subscribeme.fm, you'll also find information about the 7 books I've written, and my courses, and my Digital Creators Academy, and business coaching, and everything else. And that's where you can contact me as well, or just send an email to Ravi, R-A-V as in Victor I, at subscribeme.fm, and I'll give you a free Kindle book, my latest Kindle book that I've written about how to start a podcast in 7 hours.
Amazing. Cool. Well, I want to thank you for your time, and this has been really informational for me, and hopefully
Sorry about the information overload. That's why I said you got to be passionate where you can't stop talking.
No, I mean, it's all stuff that I need to know. There's things that I don't know about this, because obviously I'm good at one thing about it, but I don't know how to put the rest of the pieces together. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm trying to play around with a puzzle that I don't know, where I'm missing pieces and I can't find them.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for your time, and I'll be getting back to you shortly, and I'll email you, and we'll go from there. But I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on your show, Sean. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, man. And have a good night, brother.
You too. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.